Welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to completely demystify FAA Regulation 61.31 and show you exactly how to unlock the gates to flying faster, heavier, and way more advanced aircraft. You know, if you've ever looked up at a high-flying twin-engine or maybe admired a classic tail dragger on the ramp and wondered what it actually takes to legally command one, well, you're in the right place. Let's get right into it.
So, here's our flight plan for today. We'll start by tackling privileges versus qualifications. And then we're going to walk through the 4 essential pilot endorsements. That's tailwheel, complex, high performance, and high altitude pressurized. Then we'll wrap the whole thing up with type ratings and beyond.
All right, Section 1, Privileges versus Qualifications. First things first, we absolutely have to establish the foundational difference between what your license allows you to do in a general sense and what you're actually qualified to do specifically.
It helps to think of your pilot certificate kind of like a general admission ticket to an amusement park, right? It gets you through the front gates, lets you enjoy a lot of the standard attractions, but logbook endorsements, those are the specific VIP tickets you need if you want to ride the really advanced roller coasters. Earning your private pilot certificate definitely gives you pilot privileges, but it doesn't automatically qualify you to act as pilot in command or PIC of every single airplane sitting out there on the tarmac.
And that brings us right to the 4 specific gates we're going to unlock today. See, moving from a standard trainer aircraft into something more capable requires stepping through these distinct gates: tailwheel, complex, high performance, and high altitude pressurized. Each one of these is an aircraft-specific PIC qualification, all housed under FAA Regulation 61.31.
Okay, let's move right along to Gate 1, tailwheel airplanes. This is all about mastering that classic old-school gear configuration covered under Section 61.31I. Often affectionately called tail draggers or conventional gear airplanes, these planes have their third wheels situated way behind the main landing gear, instead of up under the nose like you might be used to. Now, because that third wheel is in the back, the center of gravity actually sits behind the main gear, and this drastically changes the airplane's ground handling characteristics. It makes precise directional control incredibly critical, especially during your takeoffs and landings. Why? Because improper control can super quickly lead to dangerous swerves, or what we call in the aviation world, ground loops. Because of those, let's say, unique handling quirks, you absolutely cannot act as PIC of a tailwheel airplane without specific instruction. So, to unlock this gate, you have to receive flight training in some very specific areas from an authorized instructor. We're talking normal and crosswind takeoffs and landings, wheel landings, well, unless the manufacturer explicitly recommends against them for that plane, and of course, go-around procedures. Then, once your instructor actually finds you proficient, you get that coveted one-time logbook endorsement. And just like that, you have access to some of the most classic aircraft in aviation history.
Next up, Gate 2, complex airplanes. Our second gate really steps up the mechanical intricacies of the aircraft. We're looking at the complex airplane endorsement, which falls under Section 61.31E.
So you might be wondering, what exactly makes an airplane complex in the eyes of the FAA? Well, for a land airplane, it needs a very specific trifecta. It's got to have retractable landing gear, flaps, and a controllable pitch propeller. Now, the FAA actually smartly updated this definition for modern aviation too, so it includes aircraft equipped with a qualifying digital system that controls the engine and prop, something like a FADEC system. Obviously, managing all these extra systems means you're managing extra workload in the cockpit. So before you can act as PIC, you've got to complete both ground and flight training. You need to fully understand how these systems operate, and crucially, how to handle them if they fail. The good news is, this training can partly be done in a representative, full flight simulator or training device. Once you've really demonstrated your proficiency in the aircraft's operation and its systems, your instructor will sign off and grant you that logbook endorsement.
Moving on to Gate 3, high-performance airplanes. Unlocking this third gate is entirely about managing raw engine power, and this one is governed by Section 61.31F. Now, as you step up into larger or much faster aircraft, you're going to find that things just happen a lot quicker. Similar to the complex endorsement, you need specific ground and flight training from an authorized instructor, followed by a one-time logbook endorsement to legally fly these powerhouses as pilot in command. But you really need to pay attention here because the definition is incredibly precise and, honestly, it catches a lot of people totally off guard. Here is the crucial point. A high-performance airplane must have an engine rated at strictly more than 200 horsepower. Having exactly 200 horsepower? Nope, that doesn't meet the definition. And here's a really common trap that catches students on check rides.
The rule looks at the rating of an individual engine. So think about it. If you're flying a twin-engine aircraft with two 160 horsepower engines, that combined 320 horsepower does not make it a high-performance plane. It literally has to be more than 200 horsepower per single engine.
We really need to clear up a major misconception in the aviation community here. People so often just bundle these two terms together, but they are completely separate rules. I mean, an airplane can be complex because of its landing gear and prop, it can be high performance because of its massive engine, it can be both at the exact same time, or it can be neither. It's like a giant puzzle. You absolutely have to check the specific specs of your aircraft to know exactly which of the 4 essential pilot endorsements you actually need to unlock.
All right, Gate 4, High Altitude Pressurized. The 4th and final logbook gate deals with some pretty extreme environments and serious physiological stakes under Section 61.31G.
So this is the high altitude pressurized aircraft endorsement. And the trigger for this one, it's actually really fascinating. It's triggered by the aircraft's capability, not your specific flight plan for the day. If the pressurized aircraft you're flying has a service ceiling or max operating altitude that sits above 25,000 feet mean sea level, you must have this endorsement, period. Even if you only plan to putt around cross-country at 10,000 feet today, if that plane is capable of going above 25,000, you need the signature. No way around it.
Because the risks up at those high altitudes are literally life-threatening. You just cannot shortcut this training. The FAA explicitly requires that you complete both ground and flight training. Now, the ground portion covers the somewhat terrifying realities of physiological dangers. We're talking respiration, hypoxia, gas expansion, and your time of useful consciousness without supplemental oxygen. Then, the flight portion covers the hands-on emergency procedures, things like simulated rapid decompression and emergency descents. Doing just one portion, not going to cut it. Both absolutely must be properly documented in your logbook.
Okay, Section 6, Type Ratings and Beyond. Now that we've successfully unlocked all 4 gates of our essential logbook endorsements, let's take a look at the absolute ultimate aircraft qualification, type ratings.
So a type rating is definitely not just another logbook endorsement. It is a completely different beast altogether. Type ratings are actually placed directly onto your pilot certificate itself. They are legally mandatory for large aircraft, for turbojet-powered airplanes, or powered lift aircraft. And here is a vital takeaway for you. Earning your complex, high-performance, tailwheel, and high-altitude endorsements does not replace a required type rating. Like, if you want to go fly a Gulfstream, those logbook endorsements alone just aren't going to cut it. You need the applicable training and a full practical test for that specific type rating.
Let's zoom out for a second and talk about the big picture and what this all means for your daily flying. Under Section 61.31, these 4 major aircraft endorsements generally don't carry a recurring expiration date. Once you jump through the FAA's paperwork hoops and you earn them, they're yours. They stay in your logbook forever. However, and this is a big however, a faded signature from an instructor 10 years ago doesn't magically ensure you are legally current, medically qualified, or physically proficient to handle that complex or high-performance aircraft today. Make sense?
Which really leaves us with a critical question to ponder today. The next time you approach an unfamiliar aircraft, you have to look beyond just having the physical keys. Have you actually checked the category, class, and type rating requirements? Have you reviewed the pilot's operating handbook, checked the operating limitations, and verified every single endorsement required to legally act as pilot in command? Because in aviation, the difference between being merely permitted to fly and being truly safely qualified to handle the aircraft is absolutely the ultimate key to survival. So make sure you've unlocked all the right gates before you take to the skies.